There's a generation walking around with a permanent smirk on their face. Not because life is funny, but because life is absurd, and they figured that out earlier than anyone else. If you were born between 1965 and 1980, you already know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you've ever been told your sense of humor is too dark, stick around. Because by the end of this video, you're going to understand something about yourself that nobody ever bothered to explain properly. And I'll warn you now, there's a twist coming. That completely reframes what dark humor actually is. Most people get this completely wrong. Let's go. Picture this. It's a Saturday morning. You're 8 years old. You pour yourself a bowl of cereal, park yourself in front of the telly, and watch cartoons completely unsupervised. No parental filter, no content warnings, just you, a sugar high, and whatever happened to be on. Nobody checked in, nobody asked how you were doing. And honestly, you didn't expect them to. That was just Tuesday for a Gen X kid. Your parents weren't neglectful, they were just operating on a different philosophy. Kids were supposed to figure things out, fall off the bike, get back on, encounter something confusing or scary or weird, process it alone, and move on. And here's what that produced: an extraordinary tolerance for discomfort, a finely tuned radar for absurdity, and a very specific coping mechanism that would follow them into adulthood. Dark humor, not cruelty, not nihilism, something far more sophisticated. But before I explain what it actually is, I need to tell you about the world Gen X was handed to grow up in, because the humor didn't come from nowhere. Think about what was on the news when you were a kid in the 70s and 80s. The Cold War was very much alive. Nuclear drills were real. The economy was doing something grim on a rotating schedule. AIDS emerged and nobody understood it. Political assassinations, civilizational anxiety. And then you'd come home and watch Looney Tunes, where a cartoon coyote got flattened by a boulder for the 1000th time and somehow came back for more. Think about what that does to a developing brain. Tragedy and comedy stop feeling like opposites. They start feeling like the same coin, just flipped differently. That's not dysfunction, that's adaptation. And Gen X became extraordinarily good at it. Now here's where it gets interesting, and the part most people misread. A lot of people look at Gen X dark humor and assume it comes from cynicism, from not caring, from emotional detachment that says nothing matters. That interpretation is completely backwards. The dark humor isn't evidence of not caring, it's evidence of caring so much that humor became the pressure valve. Imagine you're carrying something incredibly heavy, a massive weight, and you've been carrying it for so long that putting it down feels wrong, vulnerable. So instead, you make a joke about how heavy it is. You laugh about your bad back, you do an impression of yourself struggling with it. You're not pretending the weight doesn't exist, you're finding a way to carry it that doesn't crush you. That is Gen X humor in one image. The jokes about death, about failure, they're not coming from someone who doesn't feel anything. They're coming from someone who feels everything. Now I want to sit with something for a moment. That coping mechanism, brilliant as it is, came with a cost. And Gen X doesn't always talk about this part. When you spend decades translating pain into punchlines, you get very good at the translation, dangerously good. So good that sometimes you can't tell where the joke ends. You deflect so reflexively that people who love you struggle to get past the bit. Vulnerability starts to feel like a foreign language. You understand the grammar intellectually, but speaking it feels unnatural, exposed, embarrassing even. Sound familiar? A lot of Gen X relationships have quietly struggled because of this. Not because of cruelty, but because earnestness started to feel like a performance. Here's the thing though, the fact that Gen X can identify that pattern is itself a form of emotional intelligence, not a lack of it. Millennials were handed entire frameworks for emotional processing. They were encouraged to name their feelings, to seek therapy, and that's genuinely valuable. But Gen X developed something different, something that's arguably just as sophisticated and significantly underappreciated. Resilience through perspective. The ability to look at something genuinely awful and say, well, that's pretty ridiculous, isn't it? To hold the tragedy and the absurdity simultaneously. That's not avoidance, that's a very particular kind of strength. And in a world that keeps producing difficult material, that strength is worth quite a lot. The generations that came after Gen X are navigating a world of constant crisis. And increasingly, they're borrowing the one coping tool Gen X refined. Dark humor. The internet is absolutely saturated with it. Memes about existential dread, jokes about late-stage capitalism, ironic takes on everything. Almost none of these younger creators realize they're using a technology that Gen X basically invented out of necessity. So what does this mean for you? It means the thing you were slightly embarrassed about is actually a finely tuned instrument, one that has served you remarkably well. The question isn't whether to put it down. You're probably not going to put it down. It's part of how you're wired now. The question is whether you can use it consciously, whether you can laugh at the dark thing and also sometimes let yourself feel it directly, without the punchline at the end. Because the Gen X people who seem most at ease haven't abandoned the dark wit. They've just added one thing, the occasional moment of saying what's true, without irony. So, Gen X dark humor. It's not cynicism, it's not coldness. It's a love letter to survival, written in the only language they were taught. And if someone ever tells you your sense of humor is too dark, now you know what to tell them. Share this with someone who'll think about it for 3 days.